There is something happening with the Solana price right now that I believe is going to have a massive impact on what its future looks like for the next 3 to 4 weeks. And so in today's video, I'm going to tell you exactly what is going on right now, why this is so important, what I'm expecting next, and what I'm doing right now as a result of this. So we have a good bit to get into today, but before we do not forget that if you are trading some Solana, Bitcoin, ETH, and many more, you can check out my link to BTCC down below, where you're going to get up to $10,000 in bonuses, lower trading fees, and two of you who sign up, start trading today with BTCC are going to get $250 in USDT sent directly to your account. So feel free to check that link down below. If you are trading, you might as well check it out. Get you some of these free perks because they are absolutely fantastic. Now, heading back over to Solana, as I mentioned, this is a massive moment for the Solana price. What we can see is that Solana's price has been performing pretty dang well, especially over the last couple weeks, as a result of all the rumors and the news that we've been seeing regarding Sol. Of course, we have seen a ton of rumors regarding the Solana ETF that many people are speculating could be on the way. We've been seeing many major companies and institutions such as Upexi starting to actually adopt Solana, which I think is pretty cool because it does start to add that layer of credibility that Solana's been lacking for a while. And we have just been seeing the community as a whole rallying again and getting more involved and excited about Solana, allowing for volume to really maintain. And so as a result of all these things, Solana's price again has been absolutely making some beautiful moves upwards, actually outperforming the majority of the top 10 as it's now up 15% in the last 7 days. Now, although this has been a fantastic move, all of that excitement and all of that positivity has led us to right now. And what is happening right now is massive, it's extremely important, and as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, will very likely dictate what the future of Solana looks like going forward, at least for the next couple weeks, okay? So let me break down to you exactly why this moment is so big. Let's start there. So the reason why this moment for Solana is so big is because it has two massive structures that it's interacting with right now. And depending on how it interacts with those structures, it's going to send Solana's price in one direction or another. If it interacts with them in a positive way, it might just shoot Solana's price straight up to $300 plus. If Solana interacts with these structures in a negative way, it could just send Solana's price straight back down to 150 bucks. And so there are massive implications on the line right now with the Solana price. Now, these two structures, these are the two structures that we're paying attention to today. The first one is this ascending triangle that you can see here for the Solana price. We initially put in the very first point of resistance back in May. We put in the first point of support in June, and we can now follow those lines upwards, creating, of course, an ascending structure that Solana's price has been ranging in for the last couple months. Now, the second structure that we're paying attention to is actually a zone, and it's the Fibonacci golden zone. As you can see, Solana's price put in this high up here. It put in this low down here. It started to rally all the way back to the upside, and as it started to retrace, it created this Fibonacci golden zone, which is now a massive zone of resistance, a very difficult level to clear. And if you've been watching my channel for a while, you know how I feel about golden zones. Golden zones are the hardest level to break, and so that means two things. One, you have a very high chance of getting pushed back to the downside whenever you run into it, just like we did right here, just like we did right here, just like we did right here. But the second thing it means is that when you break this golden zone eventually, it usually can catapult you to the upside, sending you up for some juicy gains. And so it's an extremely important area to watch, and you have to be watching it extremely closely, especially in a moment like this for Solana. And so when you compare these things, or when you kind of push these two things together, the picture becomes very clear. Solana has created a midterm structure, being the ascending triangle, as it is now running into a massive zone of resistance. And I'm under the belief that whatever Solana does as a result of these two structures, that it's going to have to make a decision within in the next couple weeks at most, but more likely within the next week or two. I believe it's going to dictate what the outcome of Solana's future looks like. I think, for example, if Solana's price breaks to the downside of this ascending triangle and gets rejected off the golden zone, it easily could fall back to $154 with absolutely no problem. But if Solana can do the opposite and it can break through the top side of that structure, I think it could easily start to push back up towards that price target all-time high around 300 bucks, but maybe even higher as $400, as that is your extension zone up there. And so clearly, knowing that this is such a big thing, it is very important to pay attention to it. So that's why that's why this moment is so important. That's why this moment is so massive. That's why you need to be watching it closely, because whatever happens here with this ascending triangle and with this golden Fibonacci zone is going to dictate just what Solana's price looks like in terms of price volatility and swings going forward. So now that you have an understanding of why this is so important, let's talk about what I'm expecting next and what I'm doing now. So knowing that we are in this structure and we are in this golden zone, let's talk about probabilities, right? Let's talk about what's most likely to happen here. Now, I'm going to be honest with you guys. in history, in my historical analysis of Solana, and mind you, I have charted Solana and paid attention to his chart every single day since November of 2021, barely missing days. I look at Solana's price every single day. It is my third or fourth biggest bag in my entire portfolio, a multi six-figure position. And so because of that, going through all of that historical analysis and historical data, what I know is that Solana has a history of both being rejected off the golden zone and falling through the bottom side of ascending triangles. And so obviously, if you're a Solana holder, it's not the best news ever. Because what that means is that historically, Solana will have a higher possibility and probability of breaking to the downside here. It does struggle to break above golden zones, and typically when it creates an ascending triangle like this, it'll break to the downside. That's just what it does. Don't shoot the messenger. I'm not saying that that's what I want to happen. I'm just saying that's the higher probability thing. That's what has the higher likelihood. But with that in mind, it is not guaranteed. What you have to understand is that historical analysis and historical data study is not good enough to make a full determination of what you can expect next from an asset. That is a very surface level way to look at it. You have to consider multiple factors. Institutional interest will always shift it around. Manipulation is something that is very prevalent here in the crypto market. There are a ton of geopolitical and macro political and macro environmental things happening right now that are immediately putting impacts on the crypto market, such as interest rate cuts. And all of these things are going to kind of conjure together to create an environment that will either allow for pumps or dumps. And so, although historically speaking, from a purely technical perspective, Solana should break down here, it would be naive of me to say that it has to as a result of that, knowing all of the other things that are happening. So whenever I weigh out the realm of probabilities and possibilities, what I would say is that Solana has a 60% chance of breaking to the downside and a 40% chance of breaking to the upside. I think it is rather close because, it's, for example, if interest rates do start getting cut, that should produce an environment that can allow for risk on assets like Solana to go up. But so there is the possibility that that does happen. And in addition to that, if you go look at let's go look at CoinGlass real quick. If you look at Solana's CoinGlass, there are still liquidations to the upside, right? There are still liquidations in the terms of hundreds of millions of dollars if Solana goes to 221 on the 1 day. If we look at the 7 day, there are still some liquidations if it goes up to say 221 there. And on the 30 day, we can also see that there are still some liquidations, not many, but some, if it pushes up to say $222. So yeah, Solana's price can break up towards say 230 to 220 bucks, but there are not many liquidations that are left there that would cause some sort of move like that to the upside. There are some, just not many. Whereas when you look at the flip side of this coin, we can see just what the other picture is. The reason why I think there's a much higher percentage chance, or, I would almost lean, now that I'm saying this out loud, I would almost lean 65% chance of a break to the downside, 35% chance of a break to the upside, is because, one, historically, these break downwards. Two, this is a massive zone of resistance. Three, the liquidations are favoring a move back downwards. Everyone right now is betting big on Solana. Look at the sheer amount of liquidations that will occur if Solana, say, goes back to 199. Almost $1 billion, right? Look at the 7 day. If it goes all the way back down to say, 188, 1.6 billion. When we look at the 30-day charts here for Solana, dude, if this bad boy pump goes all the way back down to 165, that's nearly $3 billion of liquidations. Everyone right now is betting that Solana is going to go up, but they seem to not be taking into consideration the fact that it's in a bearish structure and it's running into a massive zone of resistance. And so knowing those things, it does make me hesitant and starting to kind of be a little bit cautious about Solana right now. Although I do want Solana to go up, I want Solana to run up towards 300 bucks or 400 bucks. Of course I do. It would make my portfolio grow dramatically. I cannot ignore the facts. And the facts are, historically and statistically, Solana's price should break to the downside here, and the liquidations back it. The liquidation map is rarely wrong. And whenever people are betting really big that something's going to go up based off of rumors, what usually happens? It usually pulls to the downside. And so in this moment right now, I'm not going to go out and say for sure that Solana's price is going to dump, but I am aware of the fact that Solana has a higher likelihood of breaking to the downside here than it does of breaking to the upside. And so what am I going to do as a result of that? Well, I'm going to make two moves. Move number, maybe kind of call it 3, but let's just call it 2. But move number 1 is I am taking some profits off the table from Solana. Why? Because it's up. My average cost on Solana is $33.89. We were accumulating Solana all through 2022, 23, 24. So I am still up nearly 7 and 8x. We're talking 6 to 800% gains depending on the portfolio you're looking at with Solana. And so in an instance right now where I am still up, and I know that, Solana's still in a very good spot, I'm willing to take profits on Solana here. I'm willing to lock in a little bit of that profit and just kind of, play that game a bit, knowing that it has a higher statistical chance of breaking to the downside. Not saying it will, just knowing that it could. And so I am going to take a little bit of profit off Solana. The second thing that I'm going to do, I'm actually going, or yeah, let's go ahead and call it the second thing. I'm not taking all my profits from Solana, right? So when I say I'm taking some profits from Solana, we're talking single digit percentages. We're talking 3, 4, 5% of my entire position, just kind of locking it away. You guys know I don't sell big at once. I like to sell in increments. And that's the reason why I've survived 7 years of volatility in crypto. I sell in increments. And so instead of just, selling all of it, I'm leaving some of it open to capitalize on upside opportunity. Because again, although Solana's price may pull to the downside, who's to say it doesn't come back down, find some support, and then try to run up to 400 bucks. So the second thing I'm doing is I'm leaving a good bit of my Solana position open to capitalize on future opportunity, because I don't think Solana's at a top. I think Solana still has potential in the long term. The short to midterm might be a little bit rocky. And so the third thing that I'm doing to kind of hedge right now, to hedge against this possible pullback, is I actually am rotating some of the profits that I took from Solana into a small 10x short trade, okay? So over in the Discord, I actually did announce this just yesterday. I said, give me a second, let me read this. I think it was this one. Yeah, so I said I just took profit off of Solana now that we were getting close to the top side of the ascending wedge. These structures break down much more frequently than up, so just protecting my gains a little bit here. It definitely could break upwards, especially if we get some good news, but historically that's not as likely. I'd say a 35-40% chance of happening. Also, gonna swing a tiny bit of my profit into a short trade just to see if I can compound those gains up a bit as a hedge. We'll close that down soon. If Solana breaks upwards, I will update you all soon. Now, we actually did catch that thing pretty nice. It did go up. We were roughly, I put, I think I took $700 of profit or $900 of profit or something like that. And I swung about 10% of that into a trade. My margin on this one was roughly $85 on a 10x trade. So, position size of about 4 Solana. So roughly we were up about 24% of that, or 24% as its price did start to pull back around $206. Currently it is barely in profit. It did erase some of that profit a little bit. It's only up about 3%, as you can see down here, but I am not really concerned about 3% or 8% gains. I'm really just using this again as a hedge if Solana does pull back, right? So for example, I'm leaving the majority of my position open because I do think at some point Solana is going to go upwards. But if in the meantime, before it makes that move upwards and wants to pull back, I can lock in some compounded gains and then use that profit to reinvest, to capitalize and make my bag bigger for free before it makes that run upwards, right? So it's just a hedge opportunity. And that is one thing that I like to do here in the market, is I do like to use some of these smaller leverage trades whenever I reinvest, I take some of the profit that I make from taking profit out my long-term bag. I'll swing a small percentage of that into a hedge bet. And if I lose it, it's fine. It was profit, it was house money, it is what it is. But if I win, now I can compound those gains in a much more, fun way, but also a much more advantageous way, because then I can buy Solana, for example, at lower prices. So I did do that. That was kind of the third thing that I did. As I mentioned before, I took a little bit of profit. I left a lot of it open for that long-term opportunity, but I swung some of the profit into a short trade, and that short trade is just kind of in the positive right now. As you can see, it's like 1.99%. It is kind of going back and forth. Funnily enough, it was up 24% in about 5 minutes because I did open up that short trade right before the market did pull back. But again, this is small. It's not a huge trade at all. It's only 10x. But again, it's just a hedge. It does not mean that I'm wanting or hoping for Solana's price to go down. I just do want to protect my gains a little bit, especially in this sort of market while we are in such a bearish structure like an ascending triangle, okay? And so just to kind of the TLDR, just to recap everything that I said in today's video, this is a very important moment for Solana. It's at the top side of a very, very important structure that will historically break down, while it's also in a massive zone of resistance, being the golden Fibonacci zone, which is a level that Solana struggles to clear. And so knowing those two things, I am preparing for the possibility that Solana's price may pull back to say $160, $170. And so because of that, I took some profit. I opened up a little bit of a short trade with some of that profit, but I left the majority of my Solana bag open because I do think that even if Solana's price does pull back, it will try to find some support and it will try to continue up towards $300 plus in the future. And so the best thing that you can be doing right now, in my opinion, is if you are up, maybe taking a little bit of profit isn't a terrible idea, but if you'd rather just wait it out. Go in, draw your structure from these highs and these lows, draw in your golden Fibonacci zone, which ranges between 232 and 192, and just give it some time. Let's watch to see how this plays out. Let's look to see if we can break through this resistance. Can Solana clear 232? And if so, I think it'll open up to the upside. Sure, my little short trade might lose, right? I might get liquidated on that bad boy, but at the end of the day, my long-term portfolio has generated so much in gains, I don't care. It's just a small risk for a decent opportunity, and that's the game that I like to play, okay? So I'll keep you all updated as all of this does play out. Don't forget that if you are trading some Solana yourself, you can go over to BTCC. That is where I do have my own personal trades open, and feel free to check that out down below. You are going to get up to $10,000 in bonuses, and you are going to, of course, get lower trading fees, and 2 of you are going to get 250 bucks. So feel free to check out all that stuff down below. I will continue to keep you guys updated as all this plays out. So make sure that you do press that subscribe button if you have been enjoying the content recently, and I can't wait to see you all in the next one. Peace out, everybody.